What's the type of stress that's causing your IBS, Crohn's, and colitis? So Dr. Hammer, the founder of German New Medicine, saw that everybody with IBS, Crohn's, and colitis, they had a ring in their brainstem, a 3D set of rings. You have to see it on a brain CT scan. Now, this is the most primitive part of the brain, and it sees life as a big game of Pac-Man. So stress, a conflict is a better word to use, but in German New Medicine, we use this term called a morsel conflict. And a morsel is a small bite of food. Now, think about a game of Pac-Man where the objective is to get all of the bits of food, the morsels, the sustenance on the board before the timer expires and you die. Or you could run into one of these ghosts and die. But let's pretend we're playing like a multiplayer version of Pac-Man. We have other Pac-Men on the board trying to steal your food. Now, we kind of take food for granted nowadays, but if you don't eat these things and get them on a regular basis, you will starve to death and die, hence why your brain put your gut into overdrive. So the brainstem, like think about the microbial world. You just float around, you don't really have eyes, you bump into a thing, you absorb the thing, you analyze the thing, you might digest the thing, you might eject the thing. We need things to survive. If I don't have these things called clothes, I can't go outside. If I don't have this thing called a marker, then I can't make my YouTube videos and I'm going to starve to death. If I don't have money, I can't go out and buy coffee and write the scripts for these videos. If I don't have a car, I can't go to the coffee shop to write the scripts. Like, we need things to survive. What does the digestive tract do? It digests and absorbs things. And it's also lined with the intestinal muscles, which moves things through the digestive system. And it also expels things. It expels crap from the digestive system. So what was the stressful event in your life that put your gut into overdrive? And what was that thing centered around? So let's say this is you right here. And you're going around, you're getting your sustenance. What are some other things important to your survival? We have Mrs. Pac-Man here. Mrs. Pac-Man is so important to our survival because if we don't mate with her, then we can't make mini Pac-Mans, and that's our immortality itch. But in order to get Mrs. Pac-Man, she wants the handsomest, most successful Pac-Man on the board, who can protect her from the ghost and from other Pac-Mans, or he might. So let's say this guy has a score of 100 and this guy has a score of 50 of like sexual attraction. Mrs. Pac-Man's going to go to this guy. And it might be because he was going along, and he was about to turn the corner to go talk to her, and then the ghost scared him because the ghost can kill him. Meanwhile, this guy is just having a field day, getting the cherry, getting the apple to get the high score to win the heart of Mrs. Pac-Man. Whereas this guy, oh, here, conflict shock, boom, 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 boom. Now, depending on how his psyche interpreted the situation, this could be the crap he wants to expel from his life. This could be the thing that he wants to absorb. Maybe he wants to absorb this because when you get the big dot, it gives you superpowers that can help you kill this. Or maybe this thing gives you the superpowers to kill your sexual competition. Maybe the thing that he needs for survival is the fruits on the board so that he can get a higher score to attract Mrs. Pac-Man. Or maybe it's these little things. This is the conflict. And anytime, let's say it's the fruit, every time the fruit is interfered with, Let's say this Pac-Man comes down here and is near the fruit, and when he sees that, he gets diarrhea because in his mind he wants to eject him out of the situation so that he can get his sustenance. Let's say he gets fearful. Mr. Pac-Man comes down here, he sees the apple, but then this guy's like big and buff and will beat him up. And so he comes down here and he gets sad and depressed because there's no chance that he can beat him up. So what his brainstem is going to do is hold on, like he becomes constipated because the mind, which controls the intestines, is trying to suck every last bit of value out of what's in our gut in the first place. It almost like the brain, when we get so caught up in our head, it doesn't know the difference. Like think about it, like the brainstem like plays this microbial game of Pac-Man. It doesn't know that like the glasses on my face, it is a part of me. They're not separate, at least according to the brainstem. I have digested and absorbed it and it's on my face. And I do that every morning, and then I eject it at night. That's the language of the brainstem. Thing important to survival, absorb it, great. Thing important to my survival, great, make video. And when access to that thing gets interrupted, and it's in a shocking situation, then it puts the gut into overdrive. It's going to develop extra gut cells to help you digest and absorb this hard to digest thing. Then when it gets resolved, that's when the majority of the symptoms come, because we're getting rid of those extra gut cells. And we get caught. The conflict shock was so traumatic, it kind of built these patterns into us. And we need to find it. It's like, oh, every time, like what would remind this guy of the conflict? Maybe it's every time he sees a ghost. Maybe it's every time he sees another Pac-Man. Maybe it's every time he turns a corner. Every time I turn, I hate corners. Corners are the worst. Guys, you gotta be so careful about corners. Okay, how does a corner relate to the original conflict? Oh, when I turned the corner, a ghost almost killed me. So how can that person come to peace with the conflict? First, you have to make that realization. If he's obsessed about this, the person, all they talk about is getting the power up. Or if the morsel that they need to digest is the woman, all he's going to talk about is the woman. If the thing the thing important to the survival, I mean, they're all important to the survival, but it's like all they talk about. They're obsessed with this thing. Oh, I need to get my apple. I need to get the apple. Oh, I love Fuji apples. Oh, I love Macintosh apples. Apples, this. Okay, maybe the person's morsel is the apple. Or if it's girls, this. I love girls that. Oh, Mrs. Pac-Man this, Mrs. Pac-Man that. Maybe it's Mrs. Pac-Man. Oh, it's in the story that they tell when they talk about this takes work to dig this up and to see what and to find the story that's living inside of us that we're replaying day after day after day. We're the hero in the story, and we need to conquer the villain for good and not be haunted by it. That is how we truly resolve the conflict and move forward with our lives and get rid of our digestive issues, because the brainstem no longer sees the need to throw it into overdrive to overcome the survival threat. So to get a more in-depth explanation of everything that's going on and what foods to eat and what foods to avoid, everything you need to do step by step to get better, everything I did and my students did, go down in the descriptions and sign up for my free webinar. It is all my best information. Go sign up for it now, and I'll talk to you guys later. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. It gives me ideas to make future videos. I want to make videos that you guys want to watch. So go leave those down in the comment. But most importantly, go watch the webinar. The webinar is all my best info, and it is completely free. And it also comes with a PDF cheat sheet.